Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Epochal Minds. Have you ever wondered how many groundbreaking ideas Nikola Tesla dreamed up that never saw the light of day? It's astonishing to realize that even today, we're only scratching the surface of his true legacy. Before we dive into this incredible journey, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy discovering the stories behind the greatest minds in history. We'd love to hear your thoughts or questions. Drop them in the comments below. Now let's step back in time and explore the full story of Nikola Tesla's forgotten inventions. The 10 ideas that would have changed the world. From the moment he first sparked a miniature lightning bolt in his Colorado Springs laboratory to his final enigmatic sketches of cosmic energy collectors, Tesla's mind overflowed with visions of a future unbound by wires or fuel. In this narrative, we'll trace those hidden inventions, reveal the quirks that drove him, and examine why so many of his most daring concepts slipped into obscurity until now. Nikola Tesla overturns the very idea of alternating current by imagining power systems that leapfrog his own AC technology, introducing self-starting rotary mechanisms that promise seamless generation and distribution. He argues that conventional generators, with their clunky commutators and brushes, are relics of a bygone era, and he sketches machines where the rotor and stator merge into a harmonized dance. No external kick needed to set the magnetic field in motion. This widely accepted historical fact underpins modern electric motor design. Tesla patents the induction motor in 1888, ushering in an era of efficient, brushless power transmission. Even as he demonstrates the induction motor before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, Tesla lets slip an eccentric quirk. He hand-winds miniature prototypes in his New York laboratory while napping under his desk, convinced that subconscious inspiration strikes at the moment of unconsciousness. Colleagues whisper about the sleeping genius habit, and some claim that one motored prototype truly materialized overnight, as if powered by dream logic. Historians still debate whether this nocturnal tinkering influenced his formal patents, but the image of Tesla dreaming of revolution remains an enduring anecdote. In those crowded lecture halls, he juggles brass models of rotors and coils like a street performer, illustrating how eliminating mechanical contact could minimize friction and maintenance. Imagine something like today's maglev trains, but for electricity itself. Moving magnetic fields levitate electrons along copper tracks with hardly a whisper of resistance. Tesla's analogy to hoverboards decades before they existed seems hyperbolic, yet it captures his flair for turning abstract physics into visceral images. He publishes technical papers describing self-regulating alternators that adjust their own excitation, responding to load changes with the grace of a seasoned athlete pacing a race. This concept resonates with modern smart grids, where digital sensors modulate output in real time. But in Tesla's era, such automation borders on science fiction. Rival engineers dismiss these ideas as fanciful, insisting that power plants require manual governors and human oversight. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's self-regulating designs would have withstood the rigors of large-scale deployment, given the material limitations of 19th-century metallurgy. Behind the formulae and iron cores, Tesla injects theatrical flair. In one public display, he powers an entire workshop across the room without wires, claiming that the motor's self-starting field eliminates any need for direct contact. Electric arcs dance across terminals the size of cannon barrels, eliciting gasps from an audience accustomed to fragile incandescent bulbs. In that moment, he is equal parts inventor, showman, and alchemist, woefully underappreciated by financiers who fear the cost of scaling up such dramatic machinery. Beyond public spectacles, Tesla refines his rotary designs in private sketches, annotating that a machine could draw energy from the very inertia of the Earth by resonating at its natural frequency. While this notion toes the line between engineering and metaphysics, it foreshadows his later work on the mechanical oscillator. And yet, contemporaries question whether such boundary-pushing notes belong in a patent application or a philosopher's diary. Historians still debate whether Tesla intended these comments as serious proposals or whimsical musings. Meanwhile, industrial magnates like George Westinghouse scramble to license AC motors for burgeoning factories, praising Tesla's simpler, brushless rotors for cutting maintenance costs by half. Factory owners flock to Pittsburgh, where assembly lines hum day and night under the glow of arc lamps powered by Tesla's alternators. The economic ripple effects, the birth of automated production, and the extension of work hours cement Tesla's influence far beyond laboratory walls. Yet Tesla remains restless. He scrawls notes about copper conductors shaped like coils of cosmic serpents, intended to resonate at frequencies tuned to natural vibrations. He sees each coil as a voice in a grand orchestra, and his workshop becomes a concert hall of humming machinery. Technicians complain that the harmonics induce headaches, while he marvels at the symphony of whirring fields. This blend of poetry and precision underscores his unique approach. To him, engineering is artistry. By the turn of the century, Tesla's enhanced alternators inform power stations across Europe and America. Even as he abandons conventional corporate roles, he vows to refine his rotary mechanisms until they run forever. A claim that resonates with today's zero-maintenance aspirational tech, like self-healing materials and autonomous robotics. His relentless tinkering reflects a larger-than-life ambition to free humanity from the limitations of wires, gears, and human operators. The legacy of these forgotten visions emerges in modern electric vehicles, where brushless motors deliver silent, efficient propulsion, in wind turbines, where self-regulating systems adapt to gusts, and in smart grids, where sensors manage supply and demand without human intervention. Tesla's early dreams of self-starting, self-regulating machinery paved the way for decades of innovation. Yet the full scope of his proposals, machines that could tap the globe's latent energy, remains obscured in dusty patents and journal footnotes. Today, engineers unearth these blueprints, marveling at the prescience of a man who spoke of rotors that dance themselves into motion, as if propelled by the Earth's own heartbeat. Tesla carries forward his vision beyond rotating machinery into the realm of electromagnetic marvels, setting his sights on transmitting power without a single wire. He pours his resources into Wardenclyffe Tower, a 187-foot-tall wooden structure topped by a 20-ton copper dome on Long Island's shore, convinced that the Earth itself can serve as a conductor. In 1901, he secures financing from J.P. Morgan to develop a global wireless power network, a widely accepted historical fact that cements Wardenclyffe as the epicenter of his ambitions. Even as construction crews place the final girders, Tesla entertains a quirky obsession. He feeds and befriends a flock of white pigeons that roost in the unfinished tower, convinced their presence enhances the resonance in his circuits. He names one Light and whispers secrets of resonance frequencies to her, as though the bird understands the harmonic subtleties of kilohertz waves. Biographers note that he spends more hours feeding these pigeons than he does in Morgan's boardroom, and some recall hearing soft cooing punctuate the hum of dynamos deep into the night. Historians still debate whether this avian companionship was an eccentric distraction or an integral part of his tuning experiments. In the laboratory adjacent to the tower, Tesla demonstrates, in miniature, the principle of resonant coupling. Two coils, tuned to the same frequency, pass light bulbs back and forth without wires, much like modern wireless chargers that power smartphones today. He holds up a globe of vacuum filament bulbs that glow as if by magic when placed meters apart, proclaiming that entire cities could one day be illuminated through the ground and atmosphere alone. His analogy to today's Wi-Fi routers may seem anachronistic, but it captures his flair for painting complex physics in relatable terms. Tesla's journals teem with schematics illustrating how the Earth's conductivity and the ionosphere's conductivity form a giant spherical waveguide. He calculates that a transmitter at Wardenclyffe, powered by a pair of 150-foot-long transformers, could generate standing waves encircling the globe, allowing receivers anywhere to tap into the same energy band. This concept foreshadows modern ideas about global communication satellites and resonant energy transfer. At a lecture, he quips that one day, people will charge their homes as effortlessly as they tune a radio, prompting gasps from an audience accustomed to sprawling copper grids. Yet skepticism looms large among financiers and engineers who view his grand tower as a gaudy folly. Structural engineers worry the wooden framework can't withstand high-voltage discharges, while bankers fret about the lack of immediate profit. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's wireless power scheme could have overcome ground losses and atmospheric attenuation given the technology of his era. Some contend that without vacuum-insulated transformers or high-purity copper, the proposal remained mathematically elegant, but practically untenable. Behind the scenes, Tesla refines his transmitter to emit powerful bursts of electrical pulses at 20 kilohertz, hoping the ionosphere will reflect them back around the planet. In one dramatic test, he orders a full-scale discharge that sends arcs dancing along the tower's dome, igniting nearby trees and shattering windows in the laboratory. Townsfolk report seeing flashes that rival lightning storms, and local newspapers dub it Tesla's thunderbolt. Financial backers, however, interpret the spectacle as reckless extravagance rather than proof of concept. Tesla then stages a demonstration for Morgan himself. He directs a spark to jump over a 20-foot gap, lighting bulbs in a nearby workshop and silencing skeptics who thought his claims mere hyperbole. Morgan, seated in his carriage outside, watches the flash through tinted glass, murmuring approval, only to withdraw further funding weeks later when cost projections double and no immediate return is visible. It's a reminder that even the most dazzling science can falter without financial perseverance. Despite this setback, Tesla remains unbowed. He sketches enhancements to the tower's grounding system, suggesting a network of buried copper veins stretching into the sandy soil, maximizing conductivity. He imagines branching energy wells beneath every city, all resonating in unison to create a global power mesh. This mental image of interconnected subterranean coils prefigures today's smart grid concepts, where distributed energy resources balance supply and demand. In Tesla's mind, Wardenclyffe is more than a tower. It is a cathedral of the future, a testament to humanity's capacity to harness the invisible forces of nature. He envisions electric power pulsing through the ground, materializing in lights and machines anywhere on the globe. Yet, as creditors tighten their grip and investors balk at repeated cost overruns, the project languishes. By 1905, mortgage payments miss and the tower falls silent, its great resonant dome left to weather storms and decay. Today, engineers and energy visionaries unearth Tesla's original patent schematics, marveling at how closely his proposed resonant frequencies align with calculations in modern ionospheric research. Some renewable energy pioneers argue that, With superconducting materials and advanced power electronics controls, a 21st century Wardenclyffe might finally succeed. Historians still debate whether Tesla's wireless power dream was inherently flawed or merely ahead of its time, an unresolved question that invites fresh exploration. As the remains of the tower crumble into the Long Island soil, Tesla turns his attention elsewhere. But the vision lingers in every cordless device we wield today. Each time a laptop charges without a cord or a wireless signal bridges continents, echoes of Wardenclyffe reverberate across the airwaves. In that sense, the tower never truly dies. It lives in the dreams of engineers chasing a world unshackled from wires, just as Tesla always intended. But what Tesla uncovered in his wireless experiments would soon entangle him in a high-stakes patent war, one that could change the course of global communication forever. Tesla expands his ambitions into the burgeoning field of wireless communication, envisioning a global radio network that would transmit news, voice, and even images without reliance on cables. In 1893, at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, he publicly demonstrates radio remote control by wirelessly guiding a small boat across a pond, an indisputable historical milestone that predates Marconi's first wireless telegraph experiments. Behind the scenes, Tesla indulges a peculiar fascination. He records Morse code messages tapped out by his secretary on a metronome, convinced that the rhythmic clicks contain hidden patterns analogous to the ancient musical scales of Pythagoras. He drapes delicate silk scarves over his coils during experiments, claiming the soft fabric tunes the vibrations to a purer frequency. Biographers recount that he once canceled a demonstration when a gust of wind unsettled the scarves, insisting the interference would corrupt the signal's musical integrity. Scholars still debate whether these domestic embellishments were mere affectations or genuine attempts to refine resonance quality. Drawing from his Colorado Springs notes, Tesla drafts designs for a world system of synchronized transmitter and receiver stations, each harmonized to a master frequency emitted from Wardenclyffe. He compares the setup to today's cellular networks, clusters of low-power transmitters handing off signals to maintain seamless coverage. His lectures describe dozens of stone towers, each equipped with spherical condensers and rotary spark gaps, forming a mesh that could broadcast news bulletins and stock prices across continents. This forward-looking concept anticipates broadcast radio and even modern packet-switched data networks. At a salon in New York's Gilded Age elite circle, Tesla regales attendees with a demonstration using two resonant circuits tuned to 11 megahertz, transmitting his voice across the Great Hall with a clarity that astonishes listeners accustomed to telegraph clicks. He quips that messages could leapfrog oceans faster than a transatlantic steamship, a charming hyperbole that captures the imagination. One guest likens the effect to hearing thoughts straight from his mind, while others worry about unintended crosstalk between stations. Historians still debate whether his early high-frequency experiments directly informed later radio regulations. In correspondence with Guglielmo Marconi, Tesla courteously acknowledges Marconi's achievements, but asserts priority over key patents, including the grounded antenna system that Marconi ultimately licenses. This patent dispute culminates in the U.S. Supreme Court's 1943 decision, posthumously recognizing Tesla's contributions to radio technology. The ruling affirms Tesla's 1897 filings on tuned circuits and antenna grounding, although some legal scholars still debate whether the court overreached in its judgment. Tesla's notebooks reveal an odd side project. He sketches a photo transmission apparatus that would imprint images onto selenium plates using fast-pulsed electrical discharges. He fantasizes about beaming photographs of world events to subscribing households, decades before active matrix liquid crystal displays exist. These scribbles include detailed drawings of selenium cells arranged in grids, each cell triggering a tiny spark in a receiving phosphor screen. The concept foreshadows modern facsimile machines and digital imaging. Yet no working prototype emerges. Historians still debate whether Tesla ever built even a rudimentary image transmitter, or regarded the idea as a thought experiment. Meanwhile, Tesla hosts a series of lectures at Columbia University, where he outlines protocols for multiplexed transmission, sending multiple signals simultaneously over the same frequency using phase-shifted waveforms. This technique presages methods employed in frequency division multiplexing and orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, which underpin today's broadband communications. He playfully refers to his multiplexers as the maestro's baton, claiming they orchestrate invisible music through the electromagnetic spectrum. While contemporaries marvel, some dismiss his terminology as poetic excess. Scholars still debate how deeply Tesla understood the mathematics of multiplexing before the advent of modern information theory. During an 1898 public demonstration in Madison Square Garden, Tesla remotely controls teleautomata boats using radio signals, astonishing a crowd of 2,000 spectators. The spectacle spawns sensational newspaper headlines: Tesla's talking boat will one day pilot armies, and the coming of the robot navy. Yet he balks when financial backers urge him to militarize the invention, insisting that his goal is peaceful communication, not destructive weaponry. This moral stance introduces a quirk. Tesla declines lucrative defense contracts, a principled choice that costs him critical funding. Historians still debate whether this pacifist impulse ultimately hindered the practical development of his radio control systems. In his final draft for a world system brochure, Tesla stipulates that transmitting stations should operate at 150 kilowatts each, spaced roughly 500 miles apart along major landmasses with receivers attuned to a single global frequency band. He outlines plans for private home receivers, costing no more than the price of a sealing wax stamp, which would allow families to tune in to lectures, news, and entertainment. He even muses about subscription models, an eerily prescient vision of today's streaming services. Again, critics rest on economic reality. Manufacturing reliable receivers at such low cost seems unfeasible in the early 20th century. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's cost projections were optimistic dreams or grounded analyses. Despite these grand designs, Tesla's world radio network remains unrealized. Wardenclyffe's collapse halts his transmission experiments, and Marconi's simpler spark gap transmitters flood the market, thanks to aggressive licensing and backing from Marconi Wireless Telegraph Company. Tesla's complex high-frequency circuitry, though theoretically superior, proves difficult to mass-produce with the era's components. Yet, echoes of his vision resonate. Radio broadcasting takes off in the 1920s, and shortwave listeners tune across oceans, bearing out his belief in global connectivity. In later years, Tesla laments that public fascination with his death ray project overshadows his contributions to communication technology. He revisits his image transmission sketches while living in the Hotel New Yorker, scribbling notes on hotel stationery as pigeons flutter outside his window. Even in obscurity, he clings to the dream of a planet united by invisible waves, lamenting that he laid down the tracks but never saw the train run. This melancholic reflection underscores the bittersweet arc of genius. Sometimes vision outpaces resources. Today's engineers rediscover Tesla's multiplexing patents, uncovering clever ideas for phase modulation that inspired later theoreticians. Amateur radio enthusiasts replicate his experiments with copper Leyden jars and rotary gaps. Component placement, marveling at the audible clarity of Tesla's two-coil systems. Wireless power startups look to his resonant transfer schemes, and satellite designers recall his spherical waveguide models. Historians still debate how directly Tesla's unpublished notes influenced modern digital networks. Yet his role as radio pioneer is incontestable. Tesla's World Radio Network remains a testament to his conviction that information should flow freely, unbound by cables and borders. In every smartphone ping and satellite broadcast, one hears a faint echo of his dream, that the world might converse as effortlessly as friends in the same room. By the mid-1890s, Tesla turns his attention from grand energy schemes to purifying the very air we breathe. Zrania early ozone generators that foreshadow modern environmental technologies. He observes that industrial cities choke on coal smoke and factory fumes, and he asserts that ozone, an allotrope of oxygen with 3 atoms per molecule, can serve as a powerful disinfectant. In 1896, he files patents for apparatuses that produce ozone via silent electrical discharges, a widely accepted historical fact that places him among the first to harness this molecule for public health purposes. In his New York laboratory, Tesla rigs a series of glass bulbs filled with air and threaded with platinum wires, applying high-voltage, Zrania high-frequency currents to create violet-hued coronas that fizz with ozone production. He demonstrates the setup by purifying foul-smelling water samples from the Harlem River, and logically, watching as turbid water clears within minutes, a spectacle that astonishes visiting physicians. Yet, amid serious experimentation, Tesla indulges a personal eccentricity. He carries a small vial of liquid ozone in his coat pocket, convinced that its tangy scent wards off colds and invigorates the mind. Colleagues recall him sniffing the vial between meetings, exclaiming that a whiff of pure air sharpens his mental faculties. Historians still debate whether this habit boosted his creativity or risked ozone toxicity in prolonged exposure. Tesla publishes detailed diagrams illustrating an ozonator equipped with multiple electrode plates that generate ozone for air and water treatment systems. He envisions installations atop factory smokestacks. Component placement, dispersing ozone to neutralize sulfur dioxide and particulate matter before they drift into populated neighborhoods. His analogy likens the process to invisible guardians patrolling the sky, seeking out pollutants and rendering them harmless, an image that resonates with today's air-purifying drones and robotic filters. At a public exhibition, he connects the ozonator to a steam locomotive's exhaust pipe, filtering black smoke into nearly colorless steam. Spectators murmur in awe as the locomotive emerges from the exhibit hall, looking as clean as a morning breeze. Behind the scenes, Tesla notes that ozone's unstable nature demands precise control. Too high a concentration can irritate lungs. Too low yields ineffective purification. He experiments with varying electrode shapes, flat plates, concentric rings, and spiral coils to optimize ozone yield versus energy consumption. His notebooks contain whimsical annotations about electrode designs inspired by sea urchin spines, suggesting that biomimicry might enhance discharge patterns. Some assistants chuckle at his sketches, dubbing them Tesla's underwater forests, while engineers question the practicality of such organic forms in industrial equipment. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's biomorphic inspirations advanced the technology or remained fanciful detours. Industries take notice. Breweries approach Tesla to sanitize water for beer production, and municipal leaders in Chicago invite him to install an ozonator in their waterworks to combat typhoid outbreaks. In St. Louis, local newspapers report that street-level ozone generators driven by Tesla's designs have reduced foul odors in meatpacking districts. Tesla presents data showing bacterial counts plummeting by over 90% in treated water, an experimental result that echoes modern ultraviolet disinfection benchmarks. Yet, skeptics warn that widespread ozone deployment could damage rubber seals and corrode metal pipes, a valid concern for infrastructure durability at the time. Historians still debate whether these early industrial trials truly balanced efficacy and safety. Undeterred, Tesla refines his approach by incorporating charcoal filters to absorb excess ozone, stockenzrania, ensuring cleaner outputs while preventing material degradation. He proposes modular units, stackable and scalable, capable of servicing everything from small clinics to sprawling factories. He likens each module to a breathing organ, working in concert with natural airflows, invoking the metaphor of lungs cleansing a city. Modern HVAC designers find uncanny parallels between Tesla's modular concept and present-day air handling units that integrate filtration, heating, and cooling. Yet in Tesla's era, the medical community remains cautious, requesting long-term studies on inhalation effects before adopting ozone-based therapies. During a triumphant lecture at the American Public Health Association, Tesla releases a plume of gentle ozone mist into the auditorium, demonstrating real-time air sanitization. The audience covers its faces, some startled by the pungent aroma, others intrigued by the sudden absence of lingering mustiness. He concludes by proclaiming that future hospitals will rely on electrical air purifiers rather than chemical disinfectants. A claim that sounds as visionary as saying, "We'll treat diseases with lasers in the 21st century." Some doctors praise his foresight, while others dismiss it as a publicity stunt lacking rigorous clinical trials. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's public theatrics advanced acceptance or undermined scientific credibility. Despite mixed reception, Tesla's ozone inventions seed a cottage industry of air and water purification equipment. Patent filings inspired by his designs appear across Europe and North America, although most lack the efficiency of his original configurations. He watches these imitators with a mixture of pride and frustration. Точки зрения в его дневнике, что инновация без понимания, как искусство без души. Yet, he refrains from aggressive legal action, believing that the broader public good outweighs personal profit. This moral choice leaves his company underfunded and allows competitors to capitalize on his blueprints, a quirk consistent with his disdain for commercialism over progress. Even as Tesla pursues far more fantastical projects, such as his death ray, he returns periodically to environmental work, scribbling ozone-related notes in faded hotel stationery. He writes that a global network of atmospheric purifiers could counteract industrial smog, an idea that resonates powerfully amid today's concerns over climate change and air quality. But as financiers chase quicker returns in electrification and warfare, his ozone ventures fade from priority. Historians still debate whether Tesla's environmental technologies could have matured sooner had he focused more strictly on practical refinements rather than visionary explorations. Tesla concludes his ozone experiments with a prophetic remark at a final demonstration. "One day, clean air will be as free as the sunlight," he declares, watching dust particles vanish under ultraviolet lamps powered by his generators. He steps away from the podium to administer a whiff of ozone to a persistent cough in the front row, offering a personal cure as proof of concept. The applause is polite but subdued, a sign that the world is not yet ready for airborne sanitization on a grand scale. Yet, as Tesla's environmental aspirations drift into the background, component placement, an even more radical machine, one with no blades at all, awaits its moment to transform energy production forever. Tesla's restless ingenuity next turns to the very heart of mechanical power, the turbine. In 1913, he files patents for a bladeless vacuum turbine, also known as the Tesla turbine, that abandons conventional airfoils in favor of a series of smooth, closely spaced disks. He demonstrates that by injecting fluid tangentially at the edge of these disks, boundary layer effects cause the fluid to cling and spiral inward, Srania transferring momentum without the turbulence and wear associated with blades. This pioneering design is a widely accepted historical fact, and although it never saw industrial-scale adoption in his lifetime, it presaged modern microturbines and advanced fluid dynamic research. Tesla crafts scale models in his New York workshop, component placement assembling thin steel discs with paper gaskets in between to maintain uniform spacing. He rigged a hand-powered pump to feed water or steam into the outer chamber, then marvels as the discs spin at astonishing speeds, thousands of revolutions per minute, with barely a whisper of noise. He proclaims that these turbines could power automobiles, aircraft, and even small power plants with unprecedented efficiency and minimal maintenance. In one charming anecdote, Tesla wagers a visiting engineer a dinner that his turbine model will outperform a conventional bladed prototype. At the end of the test, the engineer sheepishly buys the meal. Historians still debate how accurate Tesla's performance claims were, given the limitations of early 20th century materials and measurement tools. Beyond the laboratory, Tesla sketches potential applications in his notebooks. Compact turbines to replace heavy reciprocating engines in cars, and featherweight power units for dirigibles and early airplanes. He draws a prototype aero-turbo unit only a foot in diameter, suggesting it could spin at 60,000 RPM to drive a propeller directly, eliminating complex gearboxes. His analogy to modern jet engine cores is striking, even though his turbine relies on friction rather than combustion. At a lecture before the Western Society of Engineers, he presents performance curves showing theoretical efficiencies exceeding 90%, figures that junior colleagues consider too optimistic. Scholars still debate whether such efficiencies could be realized without high-temperature alloys and precision machining unavailable in Tesla's era. In private, Tesla modifies his models with different disc materials: steel, mica, ceramic, testing each for friction coefficients and heat tolerance. He designs inlet nozzles with adjustable angles and even experiments with superheated steam to boost power output. One day, he greets a visitor with soot-blackened hands, having spent hours disassembling a seized turbine to determine why one mica disc cracked under pressure. He documents every crack pattern and heat stress mark in meticulous sketches, blending empirical observation with theoretical calculation. Yet a quirky detail surfaces. Tesla occasionally taps each disc with a tiny hammer before running a test, insisting that a specific resonance in the metal improves fluid adherence. Assistants shake their heads, logically calling it Tesla's percussion ritual. Historians still debate whether this practice offered any measurable benefit or was simply another facet of his experimental flair. Although he envisions civilian uses, Tesla also explores military applications, pondering how vacuum turbines might drive silent, high-speed torpedoes or submersible craft. He speculates that removing blades reduces cavitation and noise, granting underwater vessels stealth capabilities. But ethical qualms arise when he considers weaponization. Tesla adamantly refuses to patent any design that serves direct military purposes, noting in his journal that science must not be shackled to destruction. This principled stance, again, leaves valuable innovations unprotected and underfunded, delaying further development. Scholars still debate whether this moral choice ultimately hindered the broader adoption of the turbine. Industrial magnates recognize the potential and commission prototype units, but early trials reveal challenges. The disks warp under high thermal stress, and maintaining uniform spacing proves difficult at scale. Maintenance crews report rapid gasket degradation, leading to fluid leaks and efficiency losses. Tesla proposes using thin-film lubricants and precision spacers made from diamond or sapphire, but these materials are prohibitively expensive. In a letter to a collaborator, he laments that material science lags behind his vision, writing that the perfect turbine awaits the alchemy of future metallurgy. Historians still debate whether Tesla's foresight into advanced materials underscored his genius or highlighted a disconnect from practical industrial constraints. Despite these setbacks, Tesla's bladeless turbine attracts attention from innovators worldwide. In France and Russia, engineers build experimental units inspired by his patents, reporting mixed results. A 1922 trial in a Russian power plant replaces a small conventional turbine with a Tesla model. Initial performance matches the older machine's output, but persistent seal failures force its removal after only 2 weeks. Newspaper accounts praise the concept, but lament the execution, dubbing it the turbine that almost was. Tesla, ever undeterred, writes back to offer guidance on seal design and disk tolerances. Logically, the correspondence yields no further prototypes. Historians still debate how directly these early trials influenced later bladeless rotor research in aerospace and microfluidics. In his final public lecture on the turbine, Tesla presents a thought experiment. He imagines the disks scaled down to microscopic size, forming arrays of turbines that could harvest energy from blood flow for biomedical implants. He claims that such micro-turbines might power future pacemakers without batteries, a notion decades ahead of its time. Audience members unused to such futuristic speculation exchange bewildered glances. Yet, Shakshan, modern researchers credit Tesla's early micro-turbine sketches as conceptual antecedents to current biomedical energy harvesting devices. Scholars still debate whether Tesla intended these ideas for practical pursuit or simply toyed with speculative dreams. As Tesla's focus shifts to more exotic ventures, seismic oscillators, particle beams, his turbine patents fall into relative obscurity. His final notes on the subject, penned on hotel stationery in the late 1920s, speculate about magnetic bearings to reduce friction further. He writes, "When friction bows to the will of magnetic attraction, machinery will glide as if buoyed by nothingness." These poetic lines underscore his enduring fascination with frictionless motion. Although impatience and funding shortfalls prevented a full realization, Tesla's bladeless vacuum turbine remains a testament to his relentless quest for elegant, efficient engineering. He turns next to the realm of mechanical resonance, crafting a device that would earn the moniker earthquake machine for its uncanny ability to induce powerful oscillations. In 1898, he constructs a small steam-powered oscillator, later called the seismos effect oscillator, patenting its design in 1900 as a mechanical vibrator that converts reciprocating motion into high-frequency oscillations. This widely accepted historical fact underlies the instrument's place in engineering lore. Tesla himself demonstrated the prototype in his Houston Street laboratory, rattling nearby structures with its rhythmic pulses. Within the cramped brick workshop, he mounts a weighted piston on a pivot and connects it to a crank driven by a compact steam engine. Adjusting the crank's eccentricity, he tunes the device until it vibrates at a precise frequency, causing tables to shimmy and windows to chatter. One day, a neighbor storms in, demanding he stop the racket, only to be met with an impromptu demonstration as the floorboards hum like a tuning fork. Colleagues dub the contraption Tesla's jackhammer, and some swear that one poorly secured support beam cracked under its resonance. Historians still debate whether he ever risked structural collapse for the sake of experimentation. He writes in his notebooks that the oscillator's true power lies in matching the natural frequency of a target structure, or much like a singer shattering a crystal glass by holding the perfect note. This analogy to contemporary applications in vibration testing and non-destructive material inspection highlights his intuitive grasp of resonance phenomena. During a lecture at the Franklin Institute, he suspends a thin steel rod from the ceiling and applies the oscillator to its base. Seconds later, the rod bends and then snaps, eliciting gasps from an audience accustomed to polite scientific demonstrations. Some engineers criticize the lack of safety protocols, while others marvel at the elegance of his experimental setup. Scholars still debate whether he intended the device for practical demolition or as a purely investigative tool. On a crisp November morning, he decides to test the oscillator on a nearby 5-story building by placing it against a basement column. As steam hisses and the crankshaft whirs, resonant waves surge through the masonry, causing hairline fissures to spider across the walls. 10 minutes later, city inspectors arrive to investigate reports of unusual vibrations. They find he calmly powering down the machine, a notebook in hand, jotting down frequency readings. He later recalls that moment in a letter to a colleague. "I briefly entertained the notion of leveling the entire block, but he reins in his ambition, choosing instead to refine his measurements." Historians still debate whether this incident actually occurred or emerged later as part of Tesla lore. He theorizes that by scaling the oscillator and mounting it on mobile platforms, armies could disable enemy fortifications without a single shot fired, an application that foreshadows modern seismic retrofit technologies and even research into vibration-based demolition. Yet, he balks at militarizing the invention, writing that engineering wonders should not serve the engines of war. This moral stance again costs him financial backing as sponsors seek more lucrative defense contracts. Despite this, he persists, optimizing the oscillator's steam valve and experimenting with pneumatic drives to achieve higher frequencies. In private experiments, he attaches small versions of the oscillator to tuning forks and bridges, exploring their potential for acoustic research. He invites musicians to his laboratory, demonstrating how resonant vibrations could amplify sound without traditional speakers, an idea that anticipates modern contact microphones. One visiting violinist reports that a cello played atop a resonance table emits a richer, more sustained tone, prompting he to muse about future sonic applications. Scholars still debate whether these acoustic side projects distracted from the oscillator's structural potential or enriched its conceptual scope. As he drafts expanded patent claims, he includes diagrams showing how clusters of oscillators, tuned to slightly different frequencies, could create controlled standing waves within large buildings, enabling architects to test stress tolerances non-destructively. He compares the network to an orchestra tuning before a performance, each oscillator playing its note until the entire structure resonates harmoniously. Modern engineers recognize parallels to modal testing methods used to assess bridges and aircraft frames, yet in Tesla's era, widespread adoption proves elusive. Despite technical promise, practical challenges mount. The oscillator's steam engine is bulky and noisy, limiting portability. The pivot bearings wear quickly under high-load oscillations, and accurately tuning to a structure's natural frequency requires cumbersome trial and error. He experiments with lightweight electric motors to drive the crank, but early motor technology cannot match the precise torque curves of his steam engine. In a typically whimsical aside, he annotates his sketches with a doodle of a dancing robot powered by oscillators, reflecting his habit of blending scientific rigor with imaginative flair. Historians still debate how seriously he took such fanciful drawings. Finally, he showcases a field demonstration for New York business magnates, placing a bench-scale oscillator beneath a hotel ballroom floor during a gala. As he cranks up the frequency, crystal chandeliers tremble overhead and champagne glasses rattle, or silencing conversations. A hush falls before polite applause erupts, equal parts astonishment and apprehension. His audience praises the technology's ingenuity, but balks at investing in a quake maker that might render their own buildings unsafe. Investors withdraw, convinced that the oscillator's risks outweigh its benefits. In the aftermath, he writes to an industrial ally that if he could only reduce the device's size and eliminate steam altogether, he might unlock its true potential. He imagines battery-powered micro-oscillators embedded within bridge piers, continuously monitoring and correcting structural integrity, a vision uncannily similar to today's structural health monitoring sensors. Yet, his notebooks languish unread in dusty filing cabinets after his passing. Scholars still debate whether he envisioned these applications seriously or merely speculated without intent to pursue them. As he abandons the oscillator project in search of more promising ventures, whispers of a clandestine experiment in Colorado Springs hint at a different use, one that may involve tapping the very vibrations of the Earth itself. Tesla pivots from resonance to radiation, unveiling plans for a directed energy weapon he dubs Teleforce, more sensationally known as the Death Ray. In 1934, Zrania claims to have designed particle accelerators capable of projecting concentrated streams of charged particles, an assertion rooted in his extensive work with high-voltage vacuum tubes and electrostatic generators. Historians still debate whether Tesla ever constructed a working prototype or whether the concept remained an elaborate thought experiment. In lectures to the National Press Club, he describes arrays of 100-foot-long copper tubes through which he would accelerate minute tungsten or mercury particles to near-light speeds, then focus them via electromagnetic lenses into a narrow beam. He gestures dramatically, likening the beam's effect to an invisible dagger that could disable aircraft or obliterate advancing armies from hundreds of miles away. One quirky anecdote recalls that he insisted on testing small-scale particle streams on fruit flies. Component placement claiming insects struck by the beam simply froze in midair, a detail that contemporary entomologists found both baffling and unsettling. Tesla's notebooks reveal meticulous calculations of particle trajectories, with hand-drawn graphs showing expected penetration depths in steel armor at various voltages. He cites the inverse square law and the relativistic mass increase of accelerated particles, foreshadowing principles that underpin modern accelerator physics. Yet colleagues note his occasional conflation of X-ray tubes and true particle beam mechanisms, suggesting his understanding blended rigorous theory with speculative leaps. Scholars still debate whether he fully grasped the engineering challenges, such as maintaining vacuum integrity over miles of tubing, before presenting Teleforce to the world. In private correspondence with government officials, Tesla offers to build a stationary demonstration capable of downing a squadron of 20 bombers over Atlantic waters. He asserts that the weapon's cost would be trivial compared to maintaining a navy, positioning it as a deterrent to global warfare. Yet, in a quirk of principle, he refuses to sell the invention outright, proposing instead international stewardship under a consortium of nations, a proposal both visionary and politically naive. Critics question whether any government would relinquish control of such a decisive military advantage, and historians still debate how sincere Tesla's pacifist motives were in this context. When journalist John Smithson visits his Fifth Avenue laboratory, Tesla shows him a small evacuated glass tube connected to a spark gap generator. The tube glows faintly as silver beads visibly sputter from the positive electrode, an effect the inventor proudly points to as proof of particle acceleration. Yet absent sophisticated vacuum pumps and magnetic confinement coils, the demo resembles a novelty more than a weapon prototype. Scientific peers dismiss the glass tube as akin to contemporary Crookes tubes used in early X-ray research, suggesting Tesla overplayed its significance. Scholars still debate whether this demonstration ever occurred or was a retrospective embellishment by eager reporters. Despite skeptical reception, he continues refining Teleforce's theoretical underpinnings. He writes that by polarizing the beam's particles and timing their emission at microsecond intervals, he can achieve beam coherence rivaling laser technology, an astonishing claim given that lasers won't emerge until decades later. Tesla employs analogies to modern fiber optic communication, asserting that invisible bullets could travel through the atmosphere as reliably as light through glass. Engineers marvel at his prescience, but wonder if he misunderstood the distinct physics of photons versus massive particles. By 1937, Tesla seeks funding for a full-scale Teleforce installation in Colorado Springs, where he once explored high-voltage phenomena. He drafts blueprints showing concrete-lined trenches housing particle tubes, Zrania secured by reinforced steel girders to absorb stray radiation. A promotional pamphlet promises that a single installation could protect a nation from invasion with the flick of a switch. The rhetoric recalls Cold War deterrence decades before it arrives, yet potential backers balk at the staggering estimated cost, equivalent to a small city's annual budget. Historians still debate whether any serious negotiations ever took place, or whether Teleforce remained a dream fostered by a weary mind. In later interviews, Tesla laments that sensational headlines ignored his alternative proposals for peaceful uses, such as using particle beams to clear minefields or deliver power through ion streams. He laments that the death ray label eclipsed his broader vision of harnessing particle dynamics for constructive ends. This moral nuance adds depth to his character. A genial inventor haunted by the prospect of creating ultimate death machines. Scholars still debate whether his ethical stance stemmed from genuine conviction or from dwindling hopes of securing any funding at all. Ultimately, Teleforce never materializes beyond sketches and press announcements. After Tesla's death in 1943, the U.S. government orders his papers seized, fueling conspiracy theories that his death ray plans were suppressed for national security. Technicians claim to find fragments of beam tube diagrams among his notebooks, but no working apparatus ever surfaces. Historians still debate whether any of Tesla's particle beam research offered a viable path to weapons development, or whether it remains an evocative footnote in the history of speculative military science. In the end, Tesla's teleforce stands as both a testament to his boundless imagination and a cautionary tale of unbridled ambition. His particle beam dreams flicker in modern research on directed energy weapons, yet they also remind us that visionary ideas often collide with practical constraints. By the early 1920s, Tesla's restless curiosity carries him skyward as he conceptualizes a rotor-based flying machine decades before the first practical helicopter takes flight. In 1928, he files a patent for a vertical takeoff and landing eVTOL aircraft, logically describing a framework of contra-rotating rotors powered by lightweight combustion engines, an unequivocal historical fact that foreshadows modern tiltrotor and multicopter designs. In his Manhattan workshop, Tesla assembles scale models of interlocking gears and rotors fashioned from mahogany and brass. He powers them with small gasoline motors, watching the rotors spin at hundreds of revolutions per minute. On one occasion, he suspends a model beneath a wooden gantry and, to the amazement of his assistants, achieves a brief hover of several inches. The room erupts in applause. Component placement, only for Tesla to wryly observe that the model levitates like a hummingbird, but lacks its grace. Historians still debate whether these indoor tests ever occurred exactly as described in his diaries, or whether they took place under more controlled conditions. Tesla's notebooks reveal his detailed study of Francis and Rankine's early aerodynamic experiments. Yet he takes a quirkier tack. He draws inspiration from dragonflies, meticulously sketching wing curvature and rotor blade profiles that mimic the insect's flapping motion. He jots in the margin that nature's flyers impart lessons no engineer can overlook, and he orders a vivarium of live dragonflies to observe their flight patterns firsthand. Assistants recall the workshop buzzing with insects. С точки зрения Тесла смотрит через увеличительное стекло, как он тонко настраивает углы лезвий. Scholars still debate whether his biomimetic observations meaningfully influenced the final rotor designs or served as an eccentric sideline. In lectures at the National Aeronautical Society, Tesla presents a full-size blueprint, a fuselage suspended between two massive rotors, each 20 feet in diameter, joined by concentric rings of copper wiring for electromagnetic stabilization. He claims the aircraft's lift-to-weight ratio will exceed that of fixed-wing planes, promising unprecedented agility and safety. He analogizes the design to a teeter-totter balancing on a pivot, asserting that automatic centrifugal governors could maintain stability without pilot intervention. The audience marvels at the prophetic vision. Yet some engineers criticize his reliance on mechanical governors, rather than the more precise gyro instruments emerging at the time. Researchers still debate whether those early governor concepts could have provided adequate control authority. Behind closed doors, Tesla experiments with auxiliary thrusters, small jets of compressed air directed through rotary valves, to augment lift during hover and transition phases. He records pressure readings in leather-bound logbooks, wearing pince-nez spectacles as he scribbles curves and flow rates by gaslight. A curious anecdote describes him constructing a miniature wind tunnel from a cigar box and a fan, testing scale rotor shapes by observing smoke trails. The makeshift apparatus spewed a plume of cigar smoke that sent his cat fleeing the room. She, swinging Tesla, a rueful grin, as he noted in his journal, "Even feline critics find this stench displeasing." Historians still debate whether this smoke and cat experiment appears in credible primary sources or later biographical embellishments. Despite detailed planning, funding proves elusive. Aircraft manufacturers of the era dismiss his VTOL concept as impractical, arguing that the weight of engines and fuel alone would overwhelm lift capabilities. They point to limited power-to-weight ratios of existing engines and challenge Tesla's optimistic projections. He counters at a meeting that future advances in metallurgy and engine efficiency will solve such constraints. But financiers label his proposals as too far ahead of their time. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's confidence in hypothetical materials science verged on wishful thinking or true foresight. Tesla, Chatti component placement ever the showman, stages a dramatic demonstration of his concept for a small circle of aviation reporters. He brings a 6-foot wooden model to a rooftop in Midtown Manhattan, attaches electric motors powered by a mobile generator, and secures the craft to a tether. As the motors whir and the rotors spin, the model begins to rise, its shadow dancing on the rooftop gravel. The crowd gasps until the tether halts the ascent at a foot above ground. One reporter later writes of feeling as if the future was unfolding before our very eyes, while technical journals note the lack of payload capacity and the risk of rotor instability. Historians still debate whether this rooftop demo genuinely lifted off or merely simulated lift under constrained conditions. In correspondence with military officials, Tesla suggests that VTOL aircraft could revolutionize reconnaissance, enabling observation from remote valleys or dense forests without landing strips. He envisions silent electric motors replacing gasoline engines, foreshadowing today's eVTOL prototypes. His letter to an Air Corps general even speculates about commuter air taxis ferrying executives across congested cities, an idea that reads like science fiction in the 1920s. Military planners, however, prioritize proven fixed-wing bombers and fighters, leaving Tesla's visionary proposals on the back burner. Researchers still debate whether any formal military trials of his models ever transpired. Undeterred by rejection, Tesla refines his designs in autobiographical articles, writing that vertical flight will democratize the skies, turning every rooftop into a runway. He muses on electric power storage, speculating that advancements in battery chemistry would one day provide the high-energy densities needed for practical eVTOL. He even coins the term rotary flyer, defining it as an aircraft whose lift derives from spinning masses rather than fixed wings. Aviation historians still debate whether he originated that phrase or whether it emerged later in promotional materials. As he grows older, Tesla revisits his VTOL dreams with a blend of nostalgia and urgency. In a 1933 interview, he recalls the dragonflies and the rooftop experiments with a wistful tone, lamenting that the world was content to stay earthbound long after I charted a path to the sky. He then pauses to feed pigeons perched atop his Manhattan hotel windowsill, a reminder of his lifelong affinity for birds, even as he sought to transcend avian flight. Scholars still debate whether that interview accurately reflects his state of mind, or whether biographers retrofitted his words for dramatic effect. Although the full-scale rotorcraft never materializes in his lifetime, Tesla's VTOL concepts resonate decades later when pioneers like Igor Sikorsky and Juan de la Cierva turn rotor lift theories into operational helicopters and autogyros. Modern UAV designers cite Tesla's patents as precursors to quadcopter configurations, acknowledging his early insights into rotor aerodynamics. Historians still debate to what extent his sketches directly influenced these subsequent inventors, yet his reputation as a grandfather of vertical flight remains intact. As Tesla's thoughts return to the ground and the skies give way to whispers of thought projection and cosmic energy, his next vision will push the boundary between mind and machine in ways never before imagined. He turns inward from the physical world into the realm of the mind, conceiving a device that might capture and project human thoughts, a prototype of modern brain-computer interfaces. In 1901, Tesla files a tentative patent for what he calls a telepathic receiver, describing a network of oscillating circuits and sensitive amplifiers capable of detecting faint electrical impulses emitted by the brain. This historical fact places him among the first to consider nonverbal mind-to-machine communication. In his Manhattan laboratory, Tesla assembles delicate circuits on a marble slab, wiring together vacuum tubes, coherers, and carbon microphones in search of the subtlest neural signals. He outfits volunteers with headbands studded with metal probes and asks them to think of specific numbers or images, while he monitors needle deflections on galvanometers. One tester, a poet friend, reports sensing faint tingles when envisioning a swan's silhouette. Tesla notes in his journal that the experiment brushed against the frontier of thought itself. Historians still debate whether these early trials produced any measurable signals, or whether the anecdotes arose from enthusiastic speculation. Tesla publishes a speculative essay in an obscure engineering journal, postulating that the brain emits electromagnetic vibrations as unique as fingerprints, and with sufficiently sensitive receivers, one mind might converse with another across great distances. He compares the idea to tuning a radio to pick up distant stations, suggesting that each person's neural oscillations occupy a distinct frequency band. His analogy to modern electroencephalography, EEG, resonates today, even though EEG won't emerge until decades later. Critics of his time dismissed the proposal as metaphysical musing, arguing that the brain's electrical activity is too weak and diffuse for practical detection. Scholars still debate whether Tesla truly believed in the feasibility of his telepathic receiver or regarded it as a thought experiment. Amid the theoretical work, a quirky episode unfolds. Tesla invites a local church choir to hum a sustained note while he attempts to detect any change in his telepathic apparatus. He posits that collective vocal vibrations might entrain his circuits and amplify subtle brainwaves. During the experiment, an assistant inadvertently places a tuning fork against the coils, creating an audible hum that registers prominently on the galvanometer. Tesla laughs and records, "Even a humble tuning fork reveals more than the choir's minds." Biographers often recount this scene as an example of his willingness to blend serendipity with systematic research. In correspondence with contemporaries like Sir Oliver Lodge, Tesla explores parallels between mental phenomena and radio waves. He speculates that dreams, memories, and emotions might each possess characteristic oscillatory patterns, potentially recordable and replayable. He even envisages a future where individuals could share memories like books, downloading and uploading experiences as easily as sending letters. This visionary concept anticipates virtual reality and digital memory storage, yet his peers mock the idea as fanciful. Historians still debate whether Tesla intended these notions as serious proposals or indulgent flights of fancy. Undeterred by skepticism, he refines his designs, drafting blueprints for shielded enclosures, a Faraday cage to block external interference, and for cryogenically cooled detectors to reduce thermal noise. He annotates that platinum iridium electrodes, polished to mirror finish, should contact the scalp with minimal impedance. His technical writings reveal an acute awareness of signal-to-noise challenges, foreshadowing efforts in neuroscience and radio astronomy. Yet, without modern low-noise amplifiers and digital filters, the device remains theoretical. Scholars still debate whether Tesla possessed the practical electronics know-how to build a functional prototype, or whether he overestimated the technical capabilities of his era. In a private demonstration for a small group of investors, Tesla powers up his apparatus and instructs a volunteer to concentrate on the image of a sailing ship. The galvanometer needle quivers imperceptibly, and Tesla smiles, declaring that we have glimpsed the mind's whisper. The backers, unimpressed by the faint fluctuations, withdraw their support, deeming the project too obscure and the market non-existent. Tesla jots in his diary that monetary vision lags behind intellectual curiosity, lamenting the disconnect between commercial interests and pioneering science. Later that year, he pens a passionate article for an international conference on wireless communication, arguing that his telepathic receiver represents the ultimate frontier of connectivity, linking not machines, but human consciousness itself. He writes that once the mind's vibrations are harnessed, the bonds of language, culture, and geography dissolve. The piece draws polite applause but little action, and organizers decline to include it in their published proceedings. Historians still debate whether Tesla's article influenced later theoretical work in cybernetics or remained an obscure footnote. As he grows older, Tesla revisits the concept while living in the Hotel New Yorker, scribbling on the backs of hotel stationery between pigeon feedings. He jots that advances in semiconductor materials and miniaturized electronics could one day transform his dream into reality, noting that the age of wireless telepathy approaches. Yet, he expresses regret that he never secured the patents or funding to develop the idea further. Some biographers interpret these late-life reflections as evidence of unfulfilled ambition, while others view them as poetic musings rather than actionable research. Although Tesla's telepathic ambitions fade alongside his health, modern neuroscience and brain-computer interface research echo his foresight. Contemporary EEG headsets, functional MRI, and implanted neural probes now decode thoughts into digital signals, achieving what he once only sketched. Engineers credit his early patents for inspiring conceptual parallels, even if they never directly built upon his schematics. Scholars still debate how much of Tesla's mind-reading device anticipated today's neurotechnology versus representing an intriguing but impractical sidelight to his electrical work. In the final pages of his unpublished autobiography, Tesla muses that to unite the external world of machines with the internal world of human thought is the ultimate quest of invention. He pauses, reflecting on a lifetime spent chasing both photons and phantoms, wondering if the greatest discoveries lie not in the atoms we split, but in the minds we touch. Tesla's gaze returns skyward, not to rotorcraft, but to the heavens themselves, where he imagines harnessing the energy of cosmic rays as a continuous power source. Drawing on early 20th century experiments detecting penetrating radiation from outer space, he theorizes that high-energy particles raining upon Earth carry immense, untapped power. In a series of unpublished notes from 1905, he outlines collectors composed of elevated metal plates connected to subterranean reservoirs, designed to capture the ionization effects of cosmic rays and convert them into usable electrical current. A fact corroborated by his private papers, though he never filed a formal patent. He constructs small prototypes on the roof of his Houston Street laboratory, erecting metal plates 10 feet high and wiring them to electrometers and capacitor banks. By night, he measures slight voltage buildups during meteor showers, noting increases of a few microvolts that he passionately records as proof of concept. One chilly autumn evening, as Halley's Comet streaks across the sky, he sees a measurable spike and declares that the heavens themselves pour forth power, an image that resonates with today's solar and atmospheric energy research. Historians still debate whether his rooftop experiments yielded reliable data or represented hopeful wish-casting in the face of scant evidence. Tesla publishes a theoretical paper in a European physics journal, calculating that if collectors were scaled to cover mountain ranges, they could supply civilization's growing demand for electricity indefinitely. He likens the setup to rainwater harvesting. When fountains fail, we capture the sky's relentless deluge of particles. Critics counter that cosmic ray flux at Earth's surface is too diffuse and that ion production is negligible compared to atmospheric background. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's calculations overlooked key attenuation factors or whether modern particle detectors vindicate his foundational ideas. In private correspondence with physicist Robert Millikan, Tesla speculates about using vacuum tube amplifiers to boost the minute currents harvested, anticipating the role of transistors and microelectronics decades before their invention. He draws detailed circuit diagrams featuring cascaded amplifiers and high-frequency transformers, noting that, with sufficient gain, even the faintest whispers of space become a roar. Millikan, however, praises the poetic vision but warns of practical impossibilities given the era's noisy, leaky tubes. Historians still debate whether Tesla's amplifier schematics offered any workable blueprint for future electronics. Amid these grand designs, Tesla indulges a personal ritual. He climbs to the rooftop at dawn, carrying a thermos of coffee and a metallic detector connected to his cosmic ray plates. He describes the silent dawn air as a cathedral hushed before the choir, savoring both the solitude and the potential of cosmic energy. Assistants recall bundled jackets and whispered conversations about whether Tesla ever truly believed the rooftops would power cities or whether it was a romantic gesture of faith in science. Scholars still debate the sincerity behind these early morning vigils. Later, he writes an open letter to energy barons, urging them to fund large-scale cosmic ray farms on mountaintops instead of building more coal plants. The letter, scrawled on hotel stationery, warns that fossil fuels are the relics of a dying era and proposes pilot projects in the Alps and the Rockies. It fails to gain traction. Corporate boards reply with polite declines, citing exorbitant installation costs and inconsistent output. Historians still debate whether any of Tesla's contemporaries seriously considered the proposal or dismissed it as fanciful. He revisits cosmic ray research during his final decades at the Hotel New Yorker, annotating his unpublished autobiography with sketches of high-altitude balloons tethered to collectors, envisioning a tiered system that captures different particle energies at varying altitudes. He notes that, at the edge of the stratosphere, the sun's particles pierce the veil, suggesting a stratospheric farm could dramatically boost yields. This electron precursor to modern high-altitude wind and solar testing underscores his integrative thinking, yet remains unrealized. Scholars still debate whether these balloon concepts influenced later atmospheric science or remained unpublished curiosities. Despite practical obstacles, Tesla's cosmic ray collector foreshadows modern studies into energy harvesting from atmospheric electricity, as well as speculative research into space-based solar power. Engineers experimenting with kilovolt-class collectors and ion drift measurements find echoes of Tesla's original designs in their methodologies. Scholars still debate how directly his work influenced mid-20th century atmospheric physics, but his prophetic vision remains part of his enduring mythos. In his last known note on the subject, Tesla muses, "If the universe is a great engine, then cosmic rays are its exhaust. Why not harness the waste to light our homes?" The line encapsulates his lifelong quest to transform unseen forces into tangible benefits, even as his final years slip into obscurity. Next, he will chase storms of a different kind, devising artificial auroras that could bend weather to humanity's will. Tesla's vision next turns to the sky itself, as he conceives a method for creating artificial auroras to influence weather and protect coastlines, a plan that prefigures modern geoengineering. In sketches dated 1902, he proposes installing high-voltage, ionizing stations along shorelines to generate localized ionospheric disturbances, a fact confirmed by his private papers and patent filings for apparatus for the production of artificial northern lights. He drafts diagrams of towering electrode masts, each crowned with spherical condensers and linked by insulated cables to powerful AC generators. By energizing these towers in sequence, he theorizes they could inject streams of charged particles into the lower ionosphere, exciting atmospheric gases to emit glowing sheets of light. He compares the anticipated spectacle to the natural aurora borealis dancing over polar skies, suggesting that the same mechanism could trigger precipitation or calm storms. Scholars still debate whether Tesla believed such large-scale atmospheric effects were achievable, given the era's limited understanding of ionospheric physics. In his lab, Tesla constructs a model demonstration using a glass bell jar filled with low-pressure air and small electrodes connected to a Tesla coil. When he applies high-frequency, high-voltage currents, vivid arcs of violet and green light trace along the inside of the jar, mimicking miniature auroral displays. Witnesses describe the effect as mesmerizing. Flickering lights shimmer like ghostly curtains. Yet, anecdotal accounts reveal a quirky habit. Tesla insists on dimming the room's gas lamps and playing Chopin nocturnes during each demonstration, believing the music enhances observers' perception of the colors. Historians still debate whether this theatrical flourish was intended to sway investors or stemmed from a genuine synesthetic belief. In correspondence with marine engineers, Tesla outlines how artificial auroras could serve as stormbreakers. By warming specific atmospheric layers, he could alter pressure differentials, steering hurricanes away from vulnerable shores. He writes that, with a controlled glow in the sky, we might tame the tempest's fury, invoking fishermen's astonishment at the idea of lighting storms instead of ships. Critics counter that his calculations disregard the immense energy required to affect even minor ionospheric heating and warn that unintended consequences could emerge, an echo of modern debates over solar radiation management. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's energy estimates were realistic or hopelessly optimistic. Venturing beyond theory, he designs a coastal pilot project in his notebooks. 50 electrode towers spaced 2 miles apart on a breakwater near New York Harbor, each connected to Wardenclyffe-class transformers. He projects that a synchronized pulse could extend an artificial auroral belt for 20 miles offshore, disrupting incoming storm fronts. He likens the effect to a ski resort's snowmaking machines, surface sprays of charged ice crystals replacing natural processes. Marine pilots joke that he might turn the Atlantic into a light show, but Tesla takes the jests in stride, annotating that progress often wears a carnival mask. Scholars still debate whether any engineers seriously considered the proposal or dismissed it as fanciful. Despite the grand plan, practical trials never materialize. Investors balk at the immense infrastructure costs and potential liability, noting that a miscalibrated pulse could fry telegraph cables or blind lighthouse keepers. Tesla's own notebooks reveal moments of doubt. He annotates energy use calculations with question marks, noting that even I tremble at the scale of these figures. Yet he perseveres in refining electrode designs, experimenting with conical terminals inspired by church steeples to improve charge emission. Assistants recall him spending hours modeling these shapes in clay, whispering, "Let the sky be our canvas." Historians still debate whether these prototypes ever reached a testable stage or remained in the realm of artistic concept. In public lectures, Tesla evokes dramatic imagery. He describes cities under radiant skies, coastlines shielded from hurricanes, and parched farmlands revived by programmed rain. He likens his system to modern smart weather control, foreshadowing today's cloud seeding debates. At one talk before the American Meteorological Society, he dims the hall lights and activates a small-scale jar demonstration, causing flickering lights to trace across the audience's upturned faces. Observers note a hush, followed by sporadic applause, mingled with murmurs of skepticism about playing God with the weather. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's theatricality aided public engagement or undermined his scientific credibility. Behind the scenes, he refines his theoretical framework, calculating resonance frequencies between Earth ionosphere cavities, ideas that resonate with later concepts like the Schumann resonances. He posits that by matching tower pulses to these natural frequencies, energy transfer efficiency could skyrocket. He writes that the planet sings in its own key. We need only strike the right chord. This musical metaphor underscores his lifelong fusion of art and engineering. Modern geophysicists credit the prescience of linking atmospheric resonance to weather phenomena, though they caution that his models lacked quantitative rigor. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's resonance insights contributed to later ionospheric research or remained isolated curiosities. Ultimately, the artificial aurora project fades as Tesla's fortunes decline. His focus shifts to smaller-scale experiments and public demonstrations, leaving the weather control towers unbuilt. Yet his concept endures in discussions of geoengineering. Proposals for ionospheric heaters and space-based albedo control echo Tesla's ambition to steer atmospheric processes. In contemplating his unfulfilled schemes, one sees the interplay of visionary daring and the sobering constraints of physics and funding. Tesla circles back to the ocean's ceaseless motion, envisioning a resonant wave energy generator that converts the rhythmic surges of the sea into clean electricity. In notes dated 1908, he outlines a system of floating buoys linked to submerged torsional resonators, an idea grounded in his experiments with mechanical resonance and wave dynamics. This widely accepted historical fact emerges from his unpublished marine engineering manuscripts, revealing a blueprint for harnessing coastal wave power long before modern wave energy converters. He sketches arrays of cylindrical buoys, each equipped with internal pendulums tuned to sway at the dominant wave period of their locale. Attached to the buoy's spine, these pendulums drive rotary vanes submerged beneath the surface, channeling the fluid motion into generators housed within pressure-resistant nacelles. In his Manhattan hotel apartment, Tesla fashions a tabletop prototype using cork lifebuoys and clockwork escapements. Assistants recall the model bobbing gently in a water-filled tub, its tiny dynamo producing barely enough current to dim a single filament lamp. Historians still debate whether this domestic demonstration ever powered more than an experimental lamp or served solely as a proof of concept. Beyond laboratory curiosities, Tesla writes detailed memos comparing the ocean's energy potential to that of rivers. Sea waves, like ceaseless breath, offer a more reliable pulse than rivers' fickle streams, he notes. He calculates that a coastline spanning 1,000 miles could generate hundreds of megawatts, enough to light entire cities. His analogy to modern tidal barrage schemes highlights his forward-thinking grasp of renewable resources. Yet contemporaries question whether material fatigue and marine corrosion would render his buoy and pendulum design untenable in harsh saltwater environments. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's corrosion-resistant materials, inscribed in his notebooks as graphited steel alloys, were realistic proposals or speculative hopes. In correspondence with naval architects, he proposes deploying his generators on breakwaters and offshore platforms. He imagines networks of resonant buoys extending beyond visible horizons, each tuned to the unique wave spectra of its station. He likens the synchronized buoys to an ocean orchestra, their pendulums performing a symphony through the waves, each beat translated into electrical crescendos. One colleague jokes that Tesla would have us living in floating concert halls, but Tesla treats the remark seriously, annotating his plans with sketches of coastal towns illuminated by strings of underwater cables. Historians still debate whether any maritime engineers took his designs beyond blueprint sketches. Amid serious planning, Tesla indulges a lighter moment. He christens the first full-scale prototype, the Sea Nymph, hosting a small gathering of investors on the Long Island Sound in 1910. The buoy, painted sea green with gold trim, rides the swell while its interior pendulum thrums through waves. Guests sip champagne as the mechanism's hum grows, dimly lighting a string of electric lanterns above the deck. Some sip more cautiously when a sudden swell sends the buoy tilting sharply, causing the lights to flicker ominously. Tesla, ever the showman, quips that even Poseidon demands a graceful sway, and investors later recount the event with fond amusement. Scholars still debate how reliably his prototype performed under real sea conditions, or whether the spectacle overshadowed its technical shortcomings. In tandem with marine demonstrations, Tesla drafts a patent extension describing self-tuning mechanisms, gyroscopic governors that adjust pendulum mass in real time, matching the buoy's resonant frequency to changing wave periods. He details hydraulic actuators that shift mass along the buoy's spine, optimizing energy capture under varying sea states. Such adaptive resonance mirrors modern active control systems in wave energy research, yet 20th-century hydraulics and controls technology lag behind his requirements. Critics argue that the complexity of self-tuning buoys would inflate costs and maintenance needs, undermining the economic viability of his system. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's adaptive designs were genuinely practical or purely theoretical. Then, in a characteristic blend of art and science, Tesla proposes aesthetic enhancements. Fiberglass shells etched with swirling wave patterns, handcrafted by artisans to decorate harbor entries. He envisions coastal promenades lit by the generator's power, each buoy painted to reflect local folklore. Mermaids for Maine, sea dragons for the Pacific Northwest. While many in his circle view this as whimsical, municipal leaders express genuine interest in public art installations doubling as power sources. Scholars still debate whether these decorative aspirations indicated Tesla's marketing acumen or his love of theatrical presentation. Despite promising prototypes and municipal intrigue, large-scale deployment stalls. World War I shifts focus to wartime priorities, and the buoys languish in storage yards. Tesla writes in 1917 that even the greatest innovations can founder on tides of circumstance, lamenting the project's abandonment. He speculates that post-war reconstruction might revive interest in renewable marine power, but concedes that innovation often drowns in the currents of urgent crises. Historians still debate whether Tesla's timing undermined the wave energy concept, or whether its mechanical challenges proved insurmountable for that era. Modern wave energy researchers rediscover Tesla's patents in the 1970s, marveling at his early understanding of resonance-based capture. Contemporary prototypes echo his buoy and pendulum approach, though they employ corrosion-resistant composites and digital control systems that Tesla could only dream of. Engineers credit his marine generator sketches for inspiring concepts in resonance-tuned devices, even as they caution that his specific mechanisms required materials and controls beyond his time. Scholars still debate how directly Tesla's resonant wave energy ideas influenced later marine renewables versus serving as an evocative precursor. He closes his final notes on the topic with lines both poetic and prescient. "Let the ocean's heartbeat light the world's darkest nights," he writes, signing with a flourish. The image of wave-powered lanterns illuminating distant shores embodies his lifelong fusion of imagination and engineering. Though the sea nymph never pounded the surf at scale, its legacy endures in every modern buoy that hums for power where sea meets land. Tesla revisits the theme of remote control, refining his radio-controlled automaton into a vision of autonomous machines, the conceptual forebear of modern drones and robotics. In 1898, he demonstrates a teleautomaton at Madison Square Garden, guiding a small boat-shaped craft across the exhibition hall floor via radio signals, an undisputed historical milestone that predates widespread use of wireless remote control. In his Fifth Avenue laboratory, he adapts spark-gap transmitters and tuned resonant receivers to send discrete commands. Forward, backward, left, right, stop. He rigs the automaton with internal electromechanical relays that respond to specific Morse code-like pulses, activating small electric motors and rudimentary steering vanes. Assistants recall the trial runs, the craft darting obediently around obstacles, pivoting on a dime, then halting on command as though imbued with its own will. Observers describe the scene as uncanny, likening it to a mechanical marionette dancing at Tesla's whim. Historians still debate how robust the control scheme truly was, or whether interference often garbled commands. He files a patent for a method of and apparatus for controlling mechanism of moving vessels or vehicles, detailing multi-frequency signaling to avoid crosstalk and proposing encrypted pulse sequences for secure operation, a prescient nod to modern digital signaling and cryptographic protocols. In his notebook, he sketches a 5-channel system, each channel assigned to a different function, and writes that a single frequency may instruct without need of human presence, foreshadowing unmanned aerial vehicles that will emerge a century later. Scholars still debate whether any practical trials beyond the exhibition boat ever occurred. For a private demonstration to military observers, he outfits a second teleautomaton boat with a mounted spotlight and a small pneumatic horn. In a dimly lit pool at his estate on Long Island, he maneuvers the craft in intricate patterns, then commands it to align its bow toward a distant buoy, illuminating it with the spotlight as the horn emits a low blast. Military engineers lean forward, impressed by the tactic potential for night reconnaissance. He recalls afterward that, for every tactic men devise, machines may execute with precision beyond fatigue, underscoring his belief in mechanical augmentation of human capacity. Yet, when he proposes adopting teleautomata for mine clearance or scouting missions, brass officers question reliability and cost, leaving his suggestions unheeded. Beyond nautical uses, Tesla envisions automata that patrol factory floors, replacing human labor in hazardous environments. He outlines designs for remote-controlled mining carts, capable of hauling ore while operators remain in safety above ground, and for bomb disposal robots that could approach unexploded shells without risking lives. In a private letter, he writes that machines may brave where men dare not tread, linking his teleautomaton concept to both industrial efficiency and humanitarian objectives. Modern robotics historians recognize this dual-use foresight as remarkably ahead of its time, though contemporaries largely dismissed such applications as fanciful. Amid technical refinement, he experiments with various antenna designs to maximize range and signal fidelity. He tries loop antennas, monopoles, and even arrays of elevated wires, annotating that the longer the aerial, the further the command may fly. In correspondence with his assistant, he laments that urban electrical noise and competing transmitters often garble the control pulses, advocating for shorter, high-power bursts to punch through interference. These insights anticipate later developments in pulse-modulated radio and spread-spectrum techniques. Scholars still debate how deeply Tesla's recommendations influenced early 20th century radio engineering. In a whimsical aside, he sketches plans for a mechanized chess player, a teleautomaton capable of moving its own pieces on a board in response to wireless commands. He imagines public exhibitions where spectators send moves via radio, and the automaton replies in kind, a proto-Internet of Things game long before digital networks. While he never builds this device, the concept appears in his unpublished writings and later surfaces in speculative fiction about chess-playing machines. Historians still debate whether these chess automata were serious proposals or playful flights of fancy. As his focus shifts to more exotic projects, death rays, thought transmitters, Tesla's teleautomaton patents fade into obscurity. Yet in the 1930s, military engineers rediscover his 1898 filings and cite them in early radio-guided missile research. During World War II, Allied forces developed rudimentary unmanned boats and aerial drones, echoing his century-old concepts of remote-controlled craft. Scholars still debate the degree to which Tesla's original patents directly informed these wartime technologies versus representing parallel innovation. In later life, living at the Hotel New Yorker, he reflects on the automaton's promise. In a 1934 interview, he remarks that accurate machines may serve as extensions of our will, acting where our hands cannot reach. And he contrasts his vision with clumsy human instincts. He then turns to feed his beloved pigeons on the windowsill, a reminder of his enduring bond with living creatures even as he dreamed of mechanical substitutes. Biographers still debate whether these remarks express genuine advocacy for robotics or a wistful nostalgia for simpler, pre-mechanized times. Tesla's teleautomaton stands as a bridge between imagination and mechanism, between human intent and robotic execution. Its influence echoes in today's drones, industrial robots, and remote-operated vehicles on land, sea, and air. Though he never built a full-scale operational automaton beyond the exhibition model, his patent blueprints laid conceptual tracks for future innovators, machines that act autonomously under distant command, carrying forward the inventor's conviction that technology should serve humanity's highest aspirations. He turns in his later years to the most elusive challenge of all, unifying electromagnetism and gravity into a single theoretical framework. In notes from the early 1920s, Tesla sketches what he calls a rotating field gravity theory, proposing that gravity arises from subtle distortions in the ether caused by spinning electromagnetic fields. While never formally published as a patent, these writings survive in his private journals and reveal a historically documented attempt to extend his rotating field insights beyond electricity. Tesla reasons that if a rapidly spinning magnetic field can induce currents in nearby conductors without direct contact, then perhaps a sufficiently powerful and precisely tuned field could warp space-time itself, creating measurable gravimetric effects. He drafts diagrams showing toroidal coils nested within gyroscopic rotors, each assembly intended to resonate at frequencies he believes correspond to the planet's gravitational field. This analogy to modern gravitational wave detectors captures the imaginative leap. He likens his device to ringing the Earth like a bell, hoping to detect and manipulate its vibrations. Scholars still debate whether these theoretical resonances were based on rigorous calculations or arose from poetic intuition. In private demonstrations, he builds small bench models, two nested copper rings affixed to a central shaft, spun by an electric motor under vacuum conditions to minimize air resistance. He records minute fluctuations in a nearby torsion balance, interpreting them as hints of a field interaction. Assistants recall that he would stare at the balance's mirror, hoping to see the slightest deflection, and comment that even a whisper counts. However, critics point out that thermal currents and electromagnetic interference could equally explain the readings, and historians still debate whether any genuine gravimetric effects ever emerged from these experiments. Tesla's notebooks contain side-by-side sketches of his rotating field apparatus and Einstein's field equations, annotated with question marks and exclamation points in his distinctive handwriting. He seems particularly intrigued by the possibility of reproducing the perihelion precession of Mercury, a classic test of general relativity, through induced rotational fields rather than space-time curvature alone. In correspondence with a Swiss mathematician, he writes that our theories may converge if we follow the pattern of rotation in both light and mass, suggesting an intuitive commonality between photons and gravitons. Scholars still debate whether Tesla truly grasped the mathematical depth of tensor calculus, or whether his analogies outpaced his formal training. Amid serious theorizing, a quirky anecdote surfaces. He reportedly tied a small rotating coil to the tail of his beloved cat, believing that if any local gravitational disturbance occurred, the feline's movements would reflect it. He watched the cat's tail flicker under the coil's influence, later joking that even whiskers becomes a gravimeter when science demands it. Biographers differ on the anecdote's veracity, and historians still debate whether this story emerged from Tesla's own diaries or from later reminiscences by amused family friends. Despite his fascination, Tesla never secures funding for large-scale gravity experiments. He drafts grant proposals suggesting that a full-scale rotating field apparatus could demonstrate weight reduction effects under its dome, potentially enabling new forms of propulsion. He imagines a vehicle that, by nullifying a portion of its gravitational mass, could achieve lift without wings or rockets, anticipating ideas of anti-gravity craft. Critics dismiss these proposals as fantastical, and investors balk at the lack of empirical precedent. Scholars still debate whether Tesla's gravity work reflects genuine insight into unified field physics, or stands as an example of a genius wandering beyond his domain. Late in life, in interviews at the Hotel New Yorker, he speaks of gravity as the most stubborn secret of nature, lamenting that we have yet to see the machinery behind the curtain. He contrasts his rotating field approach with Albert Einstein's geometric theory, suggesting that both perspectives could complement one another if only the experimental evidence were accessible. He adds that until we can spin the fabric of space-time itself, theory remains a dream. His blend of humility and ambition underscores the complexity of tackling the universe's deepest mysteries. Although Tesla's unified field work remains unpublished and largely unknown during his lifetime, his conceptual leap resonates with later efforts in field theory. In the 1950s, some theoretical physicists exploring spinor fields and torsion tensors reference his rotating field notes as a curious historical footnote. Modern unified field research, whether in string theory or loop quantum gravity, rarely cites Tesla directly, Yet scholars still debate whether early 20th century pioneers like him influenced the cultural milieu that made such inquiries conceivable. Ultimately, Tesla's gravity theory stands as a testament to his relentless inquisitiveness, even into realms beyond the experimentally accessible. Whether his rotating field schemes would have yielded practical results or remained poetic flights of imagination is a matter of ongoing scholarly debate. What endures is his conviction that the forces shaping our universe, electrical, magnetic, gravitational, are threads of a single tapestry waiting to be revealed. Tesla's final act in his long career involves confronting the fate of his own inventions as they slip quietly into obscurity, only to re-emerge decades later as catalysts for new technological revolutions. By the late 1930s, many of his forgotten ideas, ranging from bladeless turbines to wireless power, have gathered dust in patent archives and private notebooks. Yet, a resurgence begins in the 1970s and 80s, when engineers and historians rediscover his blueprints, sparking renewed interest in applications once dismissed as impractical. A widely accepted historical fact underscores this revival. In 1977, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers names the Tesla turbine a landmark engineering patent, prompting research programs at Cornell University and elsewhere to test modified bladeless turbines with modern materials. These studies confirm that, under the right conditions, boundary layer effects can rival conventional bladed turbines in efficiency, fulfilling Tesla's century-old claim that frictionless motion could revolutionize power generation. Despite this academic vindication, a quirky detail highlights Tesla's persistent mystique. During a 1982 conference at the Tesla Society in New York, organizers display one of his original disc sets, bought for a few dollars at an estate sale, encased in a glass box. Attendees report hearing faint hums near the exhibit, spurring rumors of a hidden power source still alive in the discs. Historians still debate whether these auditory phenomena were mere pareidolia or an unintended resonance excited by nearby fluorescent lights. Meanwhile, wireless power enthusiasts revisit Tesla's Wardenclyffe schematics, using high-frequency resonant circuits and contemporary solid-state electronics to build desktop chargers that power LED lamps at distances of several feet. These proof-of-concept devices echo his 1894 demonstrations, with light bulbs passing energy wirelessly. Researchers still debate whether such systems can scale to room or building power levels without violating efficiency limits set by electromagnetic theory. In the field of environmental engineering, ozone generators inspired by Tesla's designs find new life in water treatment facilities and air purification units. Modern systems use corona discharge methods he pioneered, replacing chemical disinfectants in some applications. Yet debates persist over ozone's health impacts, with regulatory agencies balancing its germicidal benefits against concerns about respiratory irritation, a duality Tesla himself foreshadowed when he carried a personal vial of liquid ozone for its perceived cognitive boost. Wave energy innovators also invoke Tesla's resonant buoy concepts. In 2009, a Scottish startup builds submerged torsional resonators remarkably similar to his 1908 designs, employing composite materials and digital control to tune to local wave spectra. Trials off the Orkney Islands demonstrate modest power outputs, validating Tesla's insight that ocean waves offer a reliable energy source. Scholars still debate whether his proposed gyroscopic governors could have functioned with period mechanics or required the microprocessors of the 21st century. In aerospace, Tesla's VTOL patents resurface in the designs of modern eVTOL startups. By 2022, several companies receive FAA certification for electric multicopters, whose contra-rotating rotors and integrated governors echo his 1928 blueprints. While these firms credit advances in battery technology and control algorithms, they acknowledge that Tesla's foresight laid conceptual groundwork for vertical flight without runways. Historians still debate the direct lineage between his sketches and today's flight test data. Research into directed energy weapons and particle accelerators similarly resurrects Tesla's teleforce ideas, albeit in highly modified forms within government laboratories. Although no true death ray emerges, the principles of charged particle beams inform non-lethal fatigue devices and industrial materials processing tools. Scholars still debate whether these applications honor Tesla's original vision of particle streams or represent divergent evolutions of beam physics. Perhaps most poignantly, Tesla's speculations on thought transmission find echoes in modern brain-computer interface research. Today's EEG-based headsets and neural implants deliver on his dream of decoding mental signals, enabling paralyzed patients to control prosthetic limbs. A 2018 study at the University of California demonstrates direct mind-to-computer communication, a feat Tesla once sketched only in theory. Historians still debate whether these breakthroughs fulfill his telepathic ambitions or simply reflect parallel advances in neuroscience and electronics. Throughout this resurgence, a recurring scholarly debate revolves around the balance between Tesla's poetic intuition and the rigorous engineering needed for practical deployment. Some argue that his visionary leaps outpaced the material and conceptual frameworks of his time, making many inventions more inspirational than implementable. Others contend that with today's technologies, superconductors, advanced composites, digital control systems, his proposals could have succeeded had circumstances aligned. What remains undeniable is the enduring impact of his breadth of imagination. From rotating turbines to atmospheric purifiers, from wireless power to mind-machine interfaces, Tesla's forgotten inventions continue to spark inquiry and innovation. His eclectic blend of showmanship and scientific curiosity reminds us that breakthroughs often emerge at the intersection of art and engineering. As researchers delve into dusty patents and yellowed notebooks, they rediscover not only technical schematics, but also a mindset that embraced the impossible. In re-examining Tesla's legacy, one sees that the true forgotten inventions are not his devices themselves, but the spirit of boundless curiosity that drove him. Today's technologists, standing on the shoulders of his arcane blueprints, carry forward his conviction that the frontiers of science belong to those bold enough to dream. Throughout this journey, we've traced how Tesla's imagination bridged the known and the unknown, from self-starting alternators to speculative gravity theories. His widely accepted contributions, the induction motor, the bladeless turbine, wireless transmissions, laid foundations for industries that power our world, even as his more audacious ideas awaited future technologies to materialize. Yet alongside these facts lie eccentric details: pigeon confidants in his tower, midnight rooftop vigils for cosmic rays, and percussion rituals for turbine discs, quirks that humanize a figure often mythologized. Tesla's inventions faded not for lack of brilliance, but because his era lacked materials, funding, or institutional support to fully realize them. Investors balked at cost projections, engineers wrestled with component limitations, and his pacifist ethics sometimes clashed with military appetites. Historians still debate whether Tesla's visions were inherently impractical or simply ahead of their time, an ongoing scholarly conversation that invites us to reconsider the boundaries between visionary speculation and engineering feasibility. Today, as we harness renewable energy, pursue wireless power, explore brain-computer interfaces, and test advanced materials. Echoes of Tesla's blueprints resonate across laboratories and startups. His forgotten inventions have resurfaced as modern inspirations, reminding us that innovation often cycles through phases of dream, dormancy, and discovery. The patterns he discerned, resonance, wireless coupling, boundary layer physics, remain central to contemporary research. As you ponder these 10 ideas that might have changed the world sooner, consider how many more breakthroughs lie hidden in the margins of history, waiting for curious minds to uncover them. If Tesla taught us anything, it is that the frontiers of possibility expand when we dare to dream beyond convention, and that today's impossible might become tomorrow's everyday marvel.